find you. Every time I think I'm growing up, then she ran to take my hand underneath the moonlight.
Good evening and welcome to the last day of MDO conference. Since Monday, 6 topics have been discussed and you'll be tuning in to the last 2 panels tonight. We've covered important topics such as tackling emerging markets and songwriting in the big leagues. Tonight, you'll be listening to some success stories over the last year in spite of our COVID situation. Music Day Out has been an important milestone event for our youth every year. It's a time where young musicians come together to learn through panel sessions and workshops. It's a time where budding artists get to perform and showcase their talents. It's a time where you get to sit back and listen to good music by our very talented local musicians. At Scape, we are always looking to provide youth with platforms to pursue their passions, realize their purpose, and explore new possibilities. Over the next 2 days, you can still tune in to more performances and workshops featuring Subsonic Eye and Stopgap. While on-site tickets are sold out, anyone can still watch the stream online on our Facebook page or our YouTube page. Physical workshops include demo drops and music production for budding musicians. Visit Scape's website for more information. So, have a good time over the weekend and I will see you at MDO.
Welcome to the Scape Music Day Out, the pre-event live stream where we feature performances, live interviews, and talks with local artists and industry players in the music scene. My name is Audrey Lim, and I'll be joined with 3 very exciting people next to me. But first, let me tell you a little bit about what MDO, Music Day Out, is about. MDO is an annual event organized by Scape and is back to celebrate the local indie music community. Returning for its 3rd year in a hybrid format, MDO is a festival that supports and recognizes youths in Singapore's culture through curated programs and showcases to support homegrown artists. The festival encompasses performances from a stellar lineup of youth music talent and panel discussions with regional industry professionals. Music Day Out is happening on the 18th to the 23rd of October in various venues right here at Scape. Visit the Scape website or follow their social media for updates and register your interest soon because slots are limited. Over here, the panel that we are going to be reveling in today is about COVID success stories. Now, it's really challenging to think about anything to do with COVID being a success. But these 3 fine young men that I've got with me are going to see whether we can change that just a little bit. Is it awkward being called a fine young man?
I would prefer to be handsome lad, but okay.
Okay, so the handsome lads that we have with us. I will run through them really quickly, right? So we all know each other. The music scene is pitifully small. Over here we have Nicholas Jarrah. Nick is the face of PTix. PTix, if you have not already heard of them, is an event marketing and ticketing app, and it's an event discovery platform that connects people to communities. Thanks for hanging out with us, Nick. Next to him, we have Ma. So Chen Song is a bassist to the stars, the boss man of Tone House, the change maker behind the Tone House sessions in both the podcast and the live stream format. And now he's also a photographer and breaker of hearts. Thanks for joining us, Ma.
Wait, what?
Yes.
You think I was listening, right?
And to the extreme other side, balancing out the beauty on this side of the panel, we have Cheng. Now, Cheng, we know him, we love him, we sing along to his TikToks all the time. He's a self-trained gig muso, the equipment and events disruptor behind CSG. And again, if you have not already discovered him, he is on TikTok breaking boundaries, and YouTube is exploding. How many million did your last one hit already?
Not million lah, but okay, 10K subscribers right now.
He's doing really well. So if you want to know more about reviews, views, exciting things that you want to duet, Cheng's the man with the master plan. But we're here to talk not just about you guys as individuals, but your experiences. Because let's face it, the past year and a bit has not been extremely fun for any one of us. And I think what we want to get out of this panel is a way to encourage people and to show them that behind their very good looking faces, they actually had to go through like hardships, they had to go through bumps in the road. We're still bumping, we're still going through that choppy channel, as it were. And we just want to figure out, how did you do it? What was the motivation? What was the low point? What was the high point? How did you get from what you were doing to where you are now? So it's quite nicely covered actually, all the different aspects of the music scene here. Let's start with ticketing, since he's right next to me.
I was trying to avoid your
Too bad. I'm sorry, not really. But based on sheer geographical proximity to me, let's talk about your experience, right? So PTix is a ticketing agent. We are now in an era where events are not happening. How does that work out for someone who sells tickets and builds communities? How does that impact you?
Very badly.
In a nutshell.
Yeah.
Expand.
So when like circuit breaker hit and when the pandemic started, right, we would see like all of the events go down, right? In Singapore before COVID, we had about 1,000 events all the time, but then it was like 300, 200, and we were like, oh no, what are we gonna do? And I think instead of us going out and like trying to get people to get back onto the platform, we kind of just took that community approach, right, which is to kind of ask everybody like what's going on and how we can help them, and I think that's how we that's our basically our first action.
Okay, we're going to build on that idea of community. So Shenzong, should I call you Shenzong? Do you want to be known as Ma?
Ma is fine.
Okay, so Ma, when you started building your own studio with Tone House, was creating space for the community part of your motivation?
Creating space for the community was my overarching motivation for starting Tone House Studios.
So how did all the different aspects, what did you see as someone who runs a studio? Now people aren't coming into jam as much, I'm assuming. So how did you see that community impacted? And so what did you decide to do about it?
When I first started Tone House Studios, I wanted to create a space for musicians and artists and people that do anything music related to have a space that is conducive, a space that is clean, smells nice, sounds good. And I think that was something that we did well. And obviously then we didn't foresee COVID happening. So the live streaming they're doing now, I just see is like an extension of, or a continuity of a service to the community.
So when did that start, this pivoting from being a jamming studio just to get people ready for live gigs to being the live gig, as it were? How did that start?
I remember on the very last day the very first day of lockdown, when Prime Minister Lee came on the news and gave us and said the lockdown is happening tomorrow or something like that. It was like days notice. And the very next day was a live stream, the very first live stream that we had planned with my band, TMD. We wanted to do a live stream, and then when the news came out, we were like, oh no, should we continue? Are people going to hate us for doing the live stream because PMD said the lockdown is happening that very night. Yeah, and from there it started lah. That's where it really started.
We'll come back to that idea of just starting in a little bit. But Cheng, for you, your experience is very varied. And in fact, we were working on a project literally days before lockdown began as well. What was that experience for you as someone who is such a varied force in the gig economy, the music gig economy? You do everything from front of stage to equipment to like how did that impact you?
You mean during the part
When
where
let's just go back to the start. Like Miles brought us back to the first day that Circuit Breaker was announced. How did that look for you?
at first it was okay for me because I've been gigging so much, right? I've been performing every single night and then handling my business in the day. So I see as an opportunity to take a break, like rest my hands and reconnect with people, stay at home, play games, and that's very important because you need to relax. So during the whole circuit breaker period, for me, the 1 month is very refreshing. It's very relaxing and it's just rejuvenating for me to get back on my feet lah. Because the promise or whatever that the news that we were getting is that okay, the gig industry is going to come back in about 2 months, 3 months, and then look how far we've come, right? So
It's a very long 2 months.
like this is a very long 2 months. Then for me, I started to panic at the 3rd week of June. Circuit breaker was in June, right? So was it June?
We
No,
went down in March.
April, yeah, April. So they started in April. So I remember having my last gig with Charlene Su, and then we went into the whole circuit breaker, right? So by the 3rd week of April, I was starting to panic, and I was trying to see what we can do. And before April, I released a video on YouTube, and the video is titled "How to Set Up Your Own Basic Live Stream Music for Musicians." Okay, something like that. Go see my YouTube channel. Okay, so
Subtle plug.
so because I have been toying with the idea of live streaming music for about a year, because my main concern is that when I see someone on Instagram and they are musicians, all my musician friends, they are on live Instagram and they're always putting their phone there, right? And then they just just streaming from their phone, and the audio quality is just people screaming, people clashing glasses and stuff like that. So for me, it's like, oh, how can I use my sound engineering knowledge to take that and then take the sound out from the soundboard, plug it into the phone? So I've been toying with the idea for a while. If you guys have seen, I also did a little review before the whole circuit breaker started on how to live stream from your phone. So with that knowledge, I realized that there's a potential to how can we survive as a musician in Singapore? How can we release our music online? How can we still do shows? And that's live stream, because live stream is such a new thing to us. It's always a privilege to have. It's something that you need to pay extra to have that kind of service, and it's very prestige to me. So we don't know the importance of learning the live stream. So that's why I started to do that video. But coming back to circuit breaker, at 3rd week I was like panicking already. How can I what can I do to get income? Because this doesn't look good. This doesn't look good. And I started to pivot, right? Pivot is a very important word that a lot of us has related to throughout 2020. So I started to see what else can I do. And one of the interests that I have is to take photos. So I started to reach out to people, and one of them is Mr. Ma here. I
so use your photos on my website.
Correct. So so basically, I take the whole photo interest to try to explore what can I do, what can I achieve out from photography. And I just wanted to go and explore the side of photography. I reached out to a few people, got some gigs here and there, and that wasn't enough, right? My business was still, I need to pay for rental, pay for all bills, pay for everything, all your overheads and everything. So I decided to learn more about live streaming, more about corporate live streaming, more about everything. How can I help people?
Right.
How can I service my clients? And that led to another change in my own business and providing live streaming services for clients. So and a whole lot more of pivoting lah, and then it comes to content creation, comes to TikTok, comes to YouTube, and then just pivoting all the way lah.
So it's about sussing out what the market needs and trying to fill that gap. So
Yes.
it's always just keeping it going basically.
Yes, correct. You just
Because
gotta keep doing lah. Keep doing and doing. It's like 2020 for me, the way I see it is like you try, you fail, you try, you fail, you try, you fail. Just keep trying and trying and trying and trying, because the more you try, you might find something that you like eventually. Correct?
I have to pick up on that. I recently went to look back on some of Tone House, our early live streaming shows that we did. Oh, I am aghast. I'm like, what was I doing? The sound is terrible. I had literally one video camera. It was a one-man show. Like I set up one video camera there, and then I'll go in the room and then I do sound. I was like, oh man, I don't
Yeah,
know.
I
what-
remember, man. I remember these moments.
It was bad lah.
His LAN cable was still on the floor. I realized. Remember?
so now that you've grown, now you've got standards. I think it's actually quite healthy, right? To look back on where we started, just to figure out, okay, we have actually come quite some way from ground zero, as it were. And I think it's quite healthy that you've just brought up that point, that it's important to take time to take stock. And I know it sounds really like touchy-feely and journally, but it's so important because now you can recognize how much you've learned, how much you've grown. And does PTIX have an opinion on that, on the learning and the growing and making the best of the opportunities? Because you're very sensitive to the market, right? So
Yeah, very.
exactly what Cheng was trying to do, trying to value add to people who use your service. How did PTIX try to grow into the opportunity?
So what we did was, so we ran like an open house, right? So we actually had an event called PTIX Open House where anyone in our community could just book an appointment with any one of us. And it was about going online because that was what everybody was trying to figure out. And we would share what we knew about getting online, and let them know, for example, like what are the options that are out there, Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo, stuff like that. We would do sessions on Facebook sessions. We would invite event organizers or people who from specific have specific professional skills and get them to like be interviewed and share their knowledge. So a lot of getting feedback from the community and a lot of trying to give as much knowledge and skills out to them as well, because many of them are not familiar with this new environment that we're in.
Of
So
course.
that's really what we've been doing. Yeah.
So because I think of the unique nature of PTIX, PTIX was an organization that was born out of tragedies. So it was the 2011 tsunami in Japan that was the coalescing force that created PTIX. So what do you feel that your company is going to be doing to make the best of this stressful snapshot of history?
Firstly, I'd like to congratulate you on your homework.
Moderators,
Congrats.
quit. We do
yeah,
work.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's quite a thing, right? Like we're in this new situation again. This another tragedy, and what we do see is that push towards going online. So we're actually just working a lot on like developing our capabilities for online events and working with our community to get their content online. Prior to that, right, you're talking about the tsunami and everything. So, of course, during that time in Japan, there was a lot of community efforts like fundraising projects, registering people for to volunteer to help out with relief efforts and stuff like that. So that was kind of like the genesis for PTEX. And now this is the new genesis that we see with regards to the online sphere. So that's what we're going to be doing.
Very cool. So this entire idea of moving into an online space and courting an audience that has been quite used to in-person events, and now we're finding ourselves increasingly in this space where we're in little rectangular boxes on your screen. Cheng, how have you managed to maneuver that transition in a meaningful way?
into people's screens.
Yeah, to get into people's screens, because you don't just do it on one platform.
Yeah.
You're working with different big brands. So how have the brands transitioned?
I think when brands reach out to you, the most important thing, they need to be able to relate to what you are trying to put it out, like for your content wise. So I realize a lot of times when brands reach out to me, they like the angle that I am like reviewing the product or just putting it out there for people to see. So I think for me, transitioning from like a musician to a content creator, it was a slight push because I don't have to just perform. I have to write a script. I have to come up with ideas. I have to shoot them. I have to edit them. I have to mix the sound. I have to post them. I have to know marketing. I have to know all these kind of things. It suddenly become like a business by itself. So for me, I have always wanted to do YouTube videos because I credit my career start to YouTube. Me and Kim, we uploaded a video on YouTube back in 2010, and one agent picked it up, and then the next moment, I'm 11 years in the industry. So I've always liked the idea of an online portfolio. So transiting to YouTube wasn't very hard to me. My first initial approach is how can I bring value back to the industry?
Right.
So I grew up in the music industry without any mentors, any direct mentors. It's always go and then try and then fail and get scolded and get banned and then try again.
You got banned?
Yeah, I got banned
Wait,
from
what's the
doing
story
one song.
there?
Okay, basically, I did one song, then one song that I thought I can wing it. You know, musicians, we like to wing it, right? Open ultimate guitar, and then just wing the chords. And if the chords are correct, you kena. If chords are not right, then too bad, right? But just happened that the song was a meaningful song to a person because her father passed away, and I winged, and I realized how much it meant to someone. At that moment, like how a song can impact you. And that's the reason why we did music in the first place, because we resonated with a lot of songs. I forgot about that, and eventually I got kicked out, and because the person's a regular customer lah, and then she got really, really upset. She wanted to don't know do what lah. Okay, so we leave it as that. So a lot of times, that's why a lot of times one of the lessons that I learned from this is that if I cannot wing that song, I will not wing it. And I don't care if my singer say you don't know the song or whatever lah. So from each crisis or situation, I think it's either a blessing or a lesson, right? So transiting from a creator, a musician to a content creator was about bringing value back into
Right.
the industry. So that's why I wanted my persona on YouTube is I wanted to be the mentor that I didn't have back when I started. So that's my angle right now. And moving forward, I think I want to create a more relatable persona on YouTube and as well as other platforms lah. I mean, TikTok is still new lah. I would say TikTok is very new to me, and I'm very glad that I have embarked on that journey.
If people watching the stream right now don't know what you do on TikTok, how would you describe it?
I don't dance. Number one, I don't have to dance. Everybody relating TikTok to I must dance, I must do the latest trend, I must put filters on my face. No, you don't have. You just have to be yourself, right? The thing is that for me, I don't sing. I hate to sing. I don't really like to be the person that belts out notes. I like to be the person at the back that whines and noises. So coming into TikTok, because back in July 2020, I wanted to start TikTok as a just trying out lah. So I did it, and then the response I got wasn't very great. Wasn't very great at all. So people were like, why you want to be this 小妹妹? Why you want to be this attract all this 小妹妹, all this doing dance lah? You how old already? Go and get a proper job. Go and do this, do that. Don't do music anymore lah. Then I got really, really upset. But then over the next few months, I realized that I shouldn't even consider people's opinion and let them affect me, because I've always trust my gut. I've always trust my instinct. And this year, I decided to, screw it. I want to try TikTok one more time because I wanted to quit music at the point in time. I wanted to move on to a normal job because everybody says that normal job, right? So in May, my last attempt of doing TikTok was because I don't want to sing, but I still want to play music and I still want to resonate with people. If live streams, you're always looking at the camera, you cannot feel the audience, you cannot see faces, all you can see is keyboard warriors, right? So for me, when I started TikTok, I wanted to play music. And then the first few videos that I did resonated with people. And they started to duet. You know, this duet function on TikTok, you can press duet and then you sing or do whatever with the person, the content creator lah. So for me, I started to do music. I just play a part of music, a part of the song that I resonate with, like the chorus, and basically just play that part lah. And then people will start duetting lah. And the first few videos that I churn out, I see people's faces. For the first time, I see people's faces. I don't really got affected by how they sing, what is their techniques, but I'm so happy and motivated because I get to see energy exchange. Just for one song, I can see like there's a lot of people who do it, and that kept me going. And as I go along, I build my fan base, my community, and then it just keeps going lah. And that's how I ended up with whatever I have now.
I love that. There's so many things to unpack there, especially that bit that you told us that people are trying to discourage you from doing music. Ma, as someone who has now made an industry out of being in music, front end, back end, live stream, do you get that feedback? And what did you say to people when they told you that? Go get a real job, man.
I'm a bit like Ching in the sense that when COVID happened, I was just a musician. I didn't have much technical knowledge. I think Ching maybe had more than me. But I really had no technical knowledge. I never done sound before. I had a camera. I used to play my dad's Canon. Back then it was like what, 450D or 500D, like really long time ago.
That's a good one.
And when COVID happened, I'm like, oh no, no jamming, no business. Let's try live streaming. Okay, so I did it with my band, and then I came from a point of like, okay, I don't know how to do sound, I don't know how to do video. I'm gonna beg friends to do it for me.
Right.
And so I managed to get the National Arts Council, back then it was called the EPG grant, the Digital Presentation Grant. Basically, I pitched to them some live streaming ideas and some live recording ideas for local bands. I got a team together of soundmen and some LaSalle guys and guy who supposedly has a degree from where? SOA, is it? SAE? SAE, right?
School of Audio Engineering?
Yeah.
Okay, SAE.
And so we did this project and everything, and it was quite a disappointment. I felt like at the end of all these things, I was I felt like I could have done a better job. So to me, that was a turning point. Like depending on people, and then these people let you down, and then that not anger, but that just like frustration in me. Like my ears tell me that this is not good, and I know what I want, and they're not giving it to me. So from then on, I said, you know what? I'm gonna figure this out myself. I'm gonna turn all these knobs. I'm gonna figure out what gain structure is. I'm gonna figure out what the compression knob does. I'm gonna figure out how to EQ. I'm gonna figure out like what frequencies or what frequencies, and I'm gonna like read up more into video things. And Ching was an inspiration for me back then. When he took photos for the studio, I'm like, wow, this guy is a great photographer. Ooh.
He was a great inspiration to me too. Ching,
yeah.
inspirational.
Thank you.
and Ching was the diehard, I'm gonna do it all guy.
Yes.
And I was watching him from there. I'm like, this guy is hustling, man. So I was like, I'm gonna hustle too, man.
We all
So
do it
Ching-
together. That's the whole point.
Yeah, so Ching is a real hustler. Like I have to give it to him, and I try my best to keep up. I think at the point I am now, I think I've done a decent job on sound and video things. Although like it's still way below like industry level average where people are paying for professional service. But to get a job done, I feel like it's something. So I guess the point here is that sometimes like you have innate potential that you don't know about, and if there are any listeners watching, if you are depending on other people to get things done for you, and you think you can do a better job, just do it. Really, you might bring yourself to a place where you surprise yourself.
Let's unpack that for a minute because there was a lot of chatter, especially at the early stages, saying, guys, just pivot, just move online, that's all. As though that was so simple. From what you guys have been talking about so far, it involved so much more than just putting up your phone and just doing your regular craft to your camera. There was such a steep learning curve. You had to look into gear, you had to learn how to do the gear, you had to go and find teams, you had to go and find people who were innately able to do that, alleged graduates of these things. And even then, it didn't work. So in the end, you had to pick up all these new skills, you had to find your new channels, find your new hustle, find new ways of engaging with existing communities who had been used to engaging with you in a specific way. So after all that, now that we are, well, we're still in the pandemic, aren't we? But now that we're slowly coming to find our feet in this hashtag new normal, what would you say has been key for you to hashtag emerge stronger in this situation? Nick, from PTech's point of view, all these new skills, all these new things that you have to pick up, what do you have today that you didn't have at the start?
More technical skill, I think it makes us even stronger.
Absolutely.
I think for everybody here, I'm just like listening to what you guys were sharing as well, right? And I got a chance to work with also a number of musicians to do certain live stream gigs over the past 1 year. And these were musicians who had no idea what OBS was, no idea what a bit rate was. And, I mean, some of them, they really hustled and persevered. And over time, they were kind of figuring out, okay, how do I engage with my audiences online? How do I, why is my screen so choppy? Why is my live stream choppy? What do I do, right? I think there was even one show we did together, right? And then we were trying to figure out why the camera was not working. And then I got a text from you saying, "Oh, it was the HDMI cable that was like loose."
Always the
and
HDMI
then,
cable.
and then so during this time, right? All of these technical knowledge, I think whoever is going through this process of learning, right, will come out stronger because once the pandemic eases down, right, I think this move in the online space is going to stay on, and musicians and artists who have had this knowledge, right, whether they're going to continue online or offline, will definitely benefit, I think, in the long run, and actually also broaden the scope of what they can do in terms of projects and ideas and so I think for us it just makes us even stronger.
And these are all things, these are life skills that you can charge for. So if you are already doing all these things, consider that in the before times, they would have had to hire, like as I'm speaking to you right now, I see people standing behind cameras pulling focus. I'm looking at all the people who laid the cables, people who are adjusting the audio behind the scenes right now. In the before times, they would have had to hire an entire team of people. And now you're trying to take all of these roles on by yourself. As Ma was pointing out, it is an entire new job. It is an entire new set of skills. It's an entirely new set of gear. And you should be charging for it if you aren't already, because you have now value added from just talent to everything else that's going on. Ma is chuckling and saying it's a hot topic. Tell us why it's a hot topic.
Go, bro.
Sila, laugh some more, laugh some more.
Last some more lah.
Because it is a complex issue, right? It's a
Yeah.
very thorny issue, and it's something that we've all had to confront. Because in the before times, it was so simple. You hire me to do 3 sets of 30 minutes or 2 sets of 45 minutes. I just get there, I do my thing, and I'm out, right? But things have changed.
So one thing I continually face in Tone House, like right now for what we do a lot of live recordings and live streamings, is people don't understand the value of how much a soundman costs, for example, how much a
Yes.
videographer costs.
Yes.
So I get a lot of inquiries coming into Tone House, and they ask what's my price. So I say, okay, this is the price for the studio and 3 static cameras on tripods. And say if you want a videographer, that's on top of that, and it's usually between 100 to 150 each videographer. That's like I'm really charging like, you know, for intern price kind of thing.
Yeah, man.
And even then, people are so hesitant to pay for, you know, for that, for skill, for manpower. And I usually have to like, you know, either absorb some of it myself or to hide it in like, you know, cost under the studio. And, you know, yeah, I guess it's just how suddenly the musicians, we are isolated from our paymasters and our agents. And now we have to charge people for things that we don't even know how much cost before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and a lot of times I feel that when you do a live stream, for example, you don't know the pain or the struggles you have to go through until you personally go and take up the cable yourself. You personally go and take up the cable, plug it in, and on it, and it doesn't work. That's the thing, right? So from that we realize, oh, wow, last time got sound man.
How nice.
How nice.
Bro.
Got sound man. Last time got videographer. Wow. Now I have to do everything myself. Like just operating the video camera is just a pain in the ass already.
Yes.
Because all these clients and customers, they're very used to hiring the event company. The event company does everything for them. They say this is the price, and in it there's a soundman, there's a videographer, there's everybody and all that. Then now, as like, you know, independents, we say this is our price for each. We break it down for them, and suddenly it becomes uncomfortable. We're like, oh, I'm paying him so much.
Yeah.
Why is he worth that much?
I know, right?
You know?
But I think you have come a long way already, lah.
So
I feel,
actually,
yeah.
just to add on, like I think there's like two topics at least I'm hearing in my head here.
Go for it.
So the one is like about, you know, charging for the services, right? Like I think also not just about charging, like even if you're not comfortable with charging or you don't want to go into that direction, right? At least having that technical knowledge will help you when you are working with a technical team. So yeah, I mean, for example, I know back in the day, right? Like when I was doing some like some online marketing stuff, right? I had a story where a friend of mine who runs an agency, his client was saying, "Hey, I want to get some sales, you know, for my website. You know, can we improve SEO, right?" So he improves the SEO on the website, right? It appears on the first or second page of Google, right? And kind of job is accomplished, right? But his client is not happy because he's like, "Oh, I want, you know, yeah, increase the SEO, but where's the sales?" Right? So they're like in two different, like one is in they're in different frequencies,
Yes.
right? So I guess what I'm coming at is like at least by having some technical knowledge, it'll just allow you to communicate better with whoever you're working with, or to understand why things are the way they are. I think so. Just from a knowledge perspective, it's really important. The second thing also, like what you shared, right? Like we're going into like live streaming, and even I myself didn't know that actually live streaming is not or streaming is not cheap. There is cost involved in
Yes.
streaming.
So
in
much.
streaming, right? We're so used to like Instagram Live and Facebook Live, and we think like streaming is this free service or feature,
Plug
but
it in. Oh, I'm done. Look, guys, I'm streaming.
yeah,
No.
so a lot of new things we're learning about what is being cost, and I think it's a lot of audience education or client education or industry education about these costs. So hang in there, you know, I feel you. I know the pain. Yeah.
I'm so glad you brought that up, this entire topic of audience education and industry education. And I suppose the pandemic has been a very stern teacher in this case, because it really does come down very hard on people who do not want to learn, or they've gotten smacked once and they do it again and they just don't want to learn to do it anyway differently. And that sort of resilience and openness to just, oh, this doesn't work, like Cheng, you were saying, this doesn't work, okay, let me just try it another way. Oh, this avenue is not giving me the results I want, let me try something else. For people who are watching and they think that, okay, you're just saying that things have been rough, why don't, in the midst of all this success, because we are talking about success and what that means to various people at various times, what was your lowest point and how did you use that as a transformative step to like kick you out into where you are now? And I'm going around the room, so I know Ma is looking very worried, so yes, I will be asking you this question.
I'll go first. Mine is
Go.
super public. Anyway, so back in, like I said, when I started TikTok in 2020 July, and I started to publish that out, people are constantly telling me that, oh, you know, what are you doing? And all these came from people around me. And it made me realize that how much of a people pleaser I am, and I always want to please them, and I forgot about what I want to achieve. Like, why did I even start TikTok in the first place, right? I forgot about that. And because I was such a people's pleaser, I couldn't please everybody at the same time. With all the pandemic things happening, lockdowns happening, phase 2 is happening, gigs are not returning, live events are not returning, I got into a whole lowest point in my life, I would say, and I didn't want to do anything. I wanted to just stop everything and just, try to get a proper job, like a paying job, monthly paying job, something like that. And it took me quite a while. It took me 3 to 4 months to get back on my feet. And I did post up on my Facebook, and it suddenly, I think that Facebook post resonated with a lot of people, and I'm super thankful that I mean, of course, I didn't use it as an avenue to gain more publicity or what. I just wanted to vent. I just wanted to rant, and um, because of that, I started to get people reaching out to me and with messages, with comforting words, and some of them, a minority of them, is an opportunity, and I take that. Um, some of them I didn't jump on it because I was in such a mess. I didn't want to go and take the opportunity, and it was only after 3 months I received one text and say, "Chen, can you come and help me out in this live stream?" And I was like, okay, lah, okay, lah, okay lah. I got no money already. Just go, right? So it was a wedding live stream. So I went there and become an operator. And from that, I realized that I still have the drive to be good. I still have the drive to do what I love. And I still have the drive to want to make a change in people's lives. And not just doing a live stream. And to impart knowledge in people and bring value to people. That's my whole approach now. And I will say it's not an easy 3 months. It's constantly in bed, constantly watching Netflix, eating potato chips, and just playing games, throwing my phone one side, not replying people, not talking to my mom, not talking to my brother, even though we are in the same house. And that was a disaster, man. It's a very dull period and low period in my life that I do not want to go back again. And because of that, that motivates me until now to not go back to that state again. So that's why I aim, and I will stress this to people. Aim to be 1% better every single day, and aim to grow, and aim to learn. Knowledge is power, like you said. And I believe that if you put that effort, you will get compounded. And then 1 year later, you look at where you are. Like Ma. Ma started out with one camera. Look at where he is now. He is not where he want to be, maybe, but it's always a constant improving along the way. And I'm super proud of you, by the way, because the sound improved.
Oh,
The sound improved
bro.
so much. I was like, whoa! At home, I was actually enjoying it. So, at the end of the day, growth mindset. I think no matter what kind of situation you are in, aim to turn that situation into something positive along with your efforts, and just pay attention to people who care about you. And that's your support line.
I love that. Oh my gosh, Cheng, take a minute to appreciate. Yes, thank you for coming to a talk. Now, Ma.
I think the point I picked up from Ching was that at his point of vulnerability, at the point where he was most open and hurt, or like, he reached out and people responded.
Yes.
So as much as just now I said, don't depend on people that are going to let you down, you're going to do it yourself. I still find myself depending on relationships with people, especially in this industry.
Yes.
This industry is built around, I won't say connections, that's not a very nice word. It's built around relationships with your clients. You got the people above you who can mentor you. You got people that you need to mentor, and you have to latch on to some of these relationships and hold them close and tight because they will help you sooner or later. One of my vulnerable moments was when I was probably just same with you, circuit breaker. It was a really down time. I mean, we were used to playing gigs 7 nights a week. We were out every night,
Yes.
and circuit breaker was hard. It was hard. It was hard. And the only way to be like keep myself busy was to plan. So I'm a planner. I like to. I'm like half a geek. I'm not like a total geek like Edwin Wee. If you're listening,
Hi,
Edwin Wee is like
Edwin.
ultra. Okay, Edwin Wee is a geek like here. Maybe here. And Ching is
man,
like
I'm here, man.
no, Ching is
No,
definitely more than
hardly.
me.
No.
Yeah, so not like Edwin level geek, but like Ching geek, but like So I still did some planning, some like equipment. I went to go and just fill my mind with like what can I do once COVID is over. Once
Never over.
and it's never over.
It's never over.
We're still waiting.
It's
Still
not
here,
it.
man.
Yeah, and that kept me sane, like just hoping for the future. So I clung on to hope and possibilities because I love to dabble in like how things work and
Nice.
things like what HDMI cable should I buy? I can spend a whole day at that. I do
Please
research
do.
on
Before the next gig.
like which adapter should I get? Which brand is the best? Like I spend like hours just watching YouTube reviews on 1.5 speed usually because they
Right.
talk too slow, right?
They do. They do. And then they'll spend the first 30 seconds talking about their day.
yeah.
Like, just get to it, man. Just get to it. Like short form content is the best
Yeah.
nowadays because people's attention span is just
Zero.
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, whatever you plan is not going to happen, lah. Your cable isn't going to work.
Sometimes.
Your adapter isn't going to work. You're going to find yourself running to the nearest challenger
Sim Lim
or
Tower.
Sim Lim Tower. If it's after 6 p.m., you're screwed because Sim Lim Tower is closed.
And that's when you rely on relationships because we've
Yeah.
got
And then
all
you
these
rely on
Telegram
relationships,
groups.
yes.
Guys, does anyone have a cable? Guys, I need to borrow one. How many times have you actually had that happen?
Oh, many times. Like
All the time.
nowadays,
So-
when I buy an adapter, I won't buy one, I'll buy five.
Yeah.
Buy five and buy different brands. So if one doesn't work, you have more. Yeah, so.
Okay.
I love that. So the importance of relationship, the importance of community building, and relying on the people that you trust, the people that you've come up with, the people that you've worked with, it does make such a huge difference. And it helps you feel a lot less lonely because all these people are going through what you're going through. They understand and they are extremely sympathetic. So build your community and then don't be too shy about just leaning on them once in a while. Don't be that lump who's not, trying for themselves, but just once in a while, just ask for help. You'd be surprised at the outpouring of love and help in HDMI cables and adapters. Nick, tell me about your low point, as it were, and how you managed to rebound from that.
So from a ticketing company perspective, might be a bit
Yes.
different, right?
Just slightly.
Right. There's this metric at PTEX, right? Which we call like LUACT events, which actually means like at any point in time, how many events are live on the platform, right? And over the past 8 years, right, I've been at PTEX in Asia from the start. When we opened an office in Singapore in 2013, and to have grown it from 0 users, like 0 events, right? There was a time where I used to celebrate when someone created a draft, like it wasn't even a real event page, like, oh my God, somebody created a draft on the, right? To 1,000 concurrent events every day when you go to the platform. To see that just go all the way down, right? It felt like something like that you've been building, or a baby, together with the team, right? Not just my effort, but to just come crashing down and to think like, wow, is this it, right? And kind of was wallowing in self-pity and like, oh, like, oh, this is the end. Maybe I should start looking for another job, or is it good? No, I mean like
I feel you.
I wasn't gonna think that it's gonna be that bad, but those thoughts sometimes creep in, like, is that what's going to happen? But I'm kind of like trying to keep positive, so I try to like just snap out of it and look on the bright side of things. I'm still healthy. I have all the people I love around me are still alive. I had friends who were in worse situations. They had to retrench staff, or they had to get pay cuts, and so instead of just like, I wasn't trying to say, oh, I'm better off than them, but I started to just switch that mindset. And then like I give a call to a friend of mine, who announced on Facebook he had to retrench almost half of his staff, and I said, hey, how are you doing? Are you okay? If you need to chat, like I'm free to chat. So I just started to just turn it around and just talk to everybody else and just say, hey, there's a listening ear. Let people know that they're not alone. So that kind of just got me out of wallowing and into the how to help others mindset, and that kind of slowly got me out, got me out of it, and then then kind of used that philosophy to bring it back to work and like start engaging with the community and finding out what everybody was going through, what help they needed, and sometimes it may not even be ticketing or PTX related. It could
Right.
just be like a connection to someone who could help, right? Yeah. So I think that was one of the lowest point. You know, thinking what you built is just come crashing down, and yeah, that was the lowest point for me.
And especially since you were there from day one, scene one, like he's always been the face of PTX. From the first time we met at what Music Matters or some
Yeah.
such, and
Yeah.
and this boy tried to school me on LinkedIn. I'm like, oh honey. Yeah, he was like, oh, you know, you shouldn't talk to people on Instagram, especially if you're a guy. He's telling me, especially if
I
you're a
said that.
guy. Yeah,
Oh,
if you
no.
message girls, then they think you're trying to like be funny, but you should message them on LinkedIn. And I'm like, well, who is this man and why is he talking
Really?
to me?
Did I say?
Yes, you
I
did.
can't remember what's the context.
But the fact is, right? Like you have been such an integral part of
lost
your
it.
brand, of the brand of PTX from the beginning, and putting all these things in motion and being so personally invested for you to go from 0 events, 0 users in Asia, 1,000 users a day, 1,000 events a day, back down to 300. How did you see the light, and how are you actively moving this forward for PTX in order to, as it were, see the light at the end?
So I think it just came back to why I joined PTech in the first place, just to
Right.
help people, help my friends, right? That's the biggest thing, because I'm a failed musician. You know, tried to pick up the guitar, didn't really. That's what failed musicians do. You know, we end up like going into like, you know, some kind of like tangent, supporting roles, right? Like
Right.
there's this joke, right? Like there's a couple of failed musicians in our company, right? From one of our engineers, one of our marketers, and
Right.
a few others, and so like having friends, you say, okay, I just want to help them. So it's just about going back into that mindset. I have a friend, his name is Brendan De Cruz. He's a Malaysian musician, and in Malaysia, the pandemic was much more worse in Singapore.
Yes.
The community there, the industry there was totally devastated. People were just thinking about how to feed their family the next week. Um, and you know, we were journeying with him on some like live stream online shows, right? And he started off really slow, right? But during the past 1 year, we've been able to work with him on increasing his presence online. And for one or two of his shows, he actually earned quite a bit of income and a bit of revenue, right? And to me, I was just so happy, like to help that one person. It may not have been so many people, but to have helped that one person, right? Like it's just that was it for me. I was like, oh, I know why I'm doing what I'm doing and where I am at this point in time. We had a few others who also we worked with, and they ended up giving the money they raised for their gigs to charity. One was to like a old folks home. So I'm like, to some ama out there, you know, if you're eating an apple or something in Malaysia, like I'm just so happy to maybe contributed in some small way to that apple.
That's
So
brilliant.
yeah, so uh, seeing the impact that I was making through other people that we've been building relationships with and working with, um, was just what has been keeping me going, and has I'm just very lucky to be where I am right now.
Brilliant. Final words. I know we're running down the clock right now,
Yep,
but
yep.
if you had one thing you want people to take away from today's session, what would it be?
Don't give up. And you're not alone, right? Don't think that you're suffering alone. Yeah.
So important. Ma, any reaction to what Nick was saying? And if not, what is the one thing you want them to go away with?
What's in my mind now is how three of us have quite different motivations to strive or
Yeah.
to get out of a dark place. Like Ching is a people pleaser. Is it? What is it?
I was a,
Was
still
a,
am
still people.
a bit more,
A recovering
less-
people.
recovering people
a
pleaser.
recovering
Yes,
people
yes,
pleaser.
yes.
A re-
But I'll please.
But what was your motivation? It was to please people through a screen, right?
No, it's about bringing value to people. But what I'm hearing from Nick is that you shouldn't care about the people that don't give a shit about you, man.
Yep.
You should care
Correct.
about that just one person, whatever that you're doing. If you can impact just one person and you create this ripple effect, and then you look back 6 months later, you think like, oh my god, I've helped this guy,
Okay.
and then that's what my takeaway is from him.
Right. So
Yeah.
your
So true.
motivation is to help people, lah.
Yes, bring value to people.
Bring value to people. Then next motivation is to help people.
Yep.
Like help people. So
What's
bring
your
value,
what's your
help.
motivation?
My motivation is to. My motivation is not perfection. It's to. Well, I grew up with. It's a random backstory out of nowhere.
Go ahead.
We love backstories, right?
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, no, I grew up with parents that were not very encouraging, lah. They didn't give a lot of nice words, and even I did well at something, it would just be like, good job, son, or like pat on the back. It won't be like, wow. Yeah. So I thrive on positive feedback,
Okay.
or like I thrive on making people happy, or like to tell me that I've done something well. That makes me happy. That's my motivation for like doing something well. So it's like if Martin Tang, let's say, comments on my stream and says sounds good, and he did. So and I'm like that 2 words is all I need for like this month of encouragement.
Martin, if you're watching.
Yeah, Martin Tang, if you're
Hey,
watching.
Martin.
You're watching Martin.
That is just 1 month's worth of encouragement for me to just carry on, doing what I do, even if nobody else says a thing. One person is all you need. So for Ching, one person, you just need to impact one person.
Yeah, I just need to impact one person.
For
man.
me, I just need one person to tell me I'm doing well.
Okay, later I tell you.
You're doing
We'll
well.
all go
You all
into
And then
tell
it.
you.
it's like I just need to help one person.
Then you got 3
I'll
months
help
worth
you.
of-
You'll
She
be the
wants
next
more.
person.
Yeah, I'll help you, man. I'll help you, man.
We
Yeah.
love this.
Yes.
Cheng,
Yeah.
what about you? Oh, so Ma, is that the one thing that you
Oh.
want them to go away
Oh yeah.
with?
So the final thing,
Backstory until forget.
you forget, is to, it's just to keep trying.
I
Try
agree,
and fail, try again. Yeah, just have thick skin.
Yeah, I think like I still stick to what I said just now. Aim to be 1% better. Don't care about what people say. If you think that you want to do this, just go ahead and do it. Right? The more pillars you bang, the more you realize it's painful, and maybe one of them, the pillars, might be a door, and you will not realize like what's gonna be happening. Man, really, just look at yourself 1 year later. Just aim to be 1% better every single day, and you'll compound.
I love that. And it's so true. If you try and you fail, you've just learned one way not to do it. So don't do it like that next time. Try a different way. And what I'm hearing from everyone is that you should remember the people around you, reach out. If you are in a position where you can reach out and be affirming, be that person. Be Martin. Comment on Ma's stream and say, "Good job, man. You're doing really well." If you are that person, to reach out to someone's Facebook post and say, "Hey, it sounds like you're not doing very well right now. Can I offer you an opportunity to do a live stream?" If you feel like you're in a position where you know that people around you are not doing so well, reach out as a human being. Not every interaction has to be so calculated that it has to get something out of it for you. You could just be a person and just say, "Hey, like I know we're friends in the scene, we're work friends. I know him from work," but you can also be real with that person and be authentic with that person, and you don't know what a huge difference you might be making in someone's life.
Yeah, ask them out for kopi, but don't sell them insurance.
And be frank.
Be that person.
And be
Yes.
frank and be frank and transparent with people and your
Correct.
intentions. Because
Yes.
all of us, I believe we all have very high EQ. We can tell if what you're saying is not matching what you intend.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so just be frank.
Be real.
Be Ma.
So be Ma.
Be
Be
chill.
more
Ma.
like
Be-
Ma.
Bima.
Be Ma.
So we've had a wonderful conversation tonight, and we've managed to work across the different segments. We've spoken about someone from the support ticketing side. We've spoken to people who are from the studio live stream side. We've spoken to content creators who've had to pivot in different ways. And all these different elements have come together to demonstrate that we're not all that different after all. Success might be different to different people. It might affect us in different ways. But ultimately, what we consider success, our measurement, our ROI, as it were, is how much we've managed to impact our community, how much we've managed to better the people around us, and how far we have come. Just taking that minute in your day to look back and say, okay, I started at the start of Circuit Breaker, over here, and I have now gained a bit of ground. So whether you're just going through the day trying to be 1% better, whether you're going through the day trying to figure out how you can impact one person's life, or be that person who receives that affirmation, it is a mixed bag. This pandemic isn't going anywhere anytime soon, but we have each other, we have the relationships that we've built, and we are in a position to see how we can make this journey through these choppy waters that much sweeter for everyone else. Success may not be the same for you as it is for these fine gentlemen that I have, or these, what, handsome lads, was it?
He
That-
say himself lah.
Yes.
And then you what?
I know handsome lah.
Hey,
I'll
no,
just
bro.
take whatever I can get.
So we're coming to the winding down, and we're coming to the affirming part of this, but don't stop trying. Keep building doors for opportunity to knock on. This has been Ching and Ma and Nick. My name is Audrey Lim, and stay tuned. There will be another panel here on Music Day Out. We'll see you soon. Bye.
I can't sleep tonight, waiting for you to make me alright. So now I wait till I see the sea.
Love undercover, it's the final hour. Yeah, we go way back, let me remind you. Every time I think I'm growing up, venture and take my hand underneath the moonlight.
waiting for you to make me alright. So now I wait till I see the sea.
Love undercover, it's the final hour. Yeah, we go way back, let me remind you. Every time I think I'm growing up, then she ran to take my hand underneath the moonlight.
Hey, okay. Hi guys.
Hi guys.
Welcome to the Scape Music Day Out pre-event live stream, where we feature performances, interviews, and talks with local artists like Imran and Joshua over here with me today, and industry players in the music scene. So Music Day Out, also like affectionately known as MDO, the annual event organized by Scape, is back to celebrate the local independent music community. Returning for its third year in a hybrid format because of COVID, MDO is a festival that supports and recognizes youth in Singapore's culture through curated performances and showcases to support homegrown artists. The festival also encompasses performances from a stellar lineup of youth music talents and panel discussions with regional industry professionals, as you saw from the video just now. So Music Day Out is happening on the 18th to the 23rd of October in various venues at Scape. Visit Scape website or follow their social media for updates. And if you need to, just register your interest soon as slots are limited. In fact. So, with that really wordy introduction, my name is Tim Decotta, and today I have the pleasure of being in the company of these two amazing human beings, Imran Ajmain and Joshua Go. Hi guys,
Hey man, how are you?
Hey everyone.
hope everything's okay. Maybe we'll just start with like quick introductions from both of y'all, and a brief, I guess, history of how you came into doing music and into your respective scenes. So maybe we can start with Joshua.
Sure. Hi everyone. I'm Joshua. I'm actually a songwriter and music producer for the Chinese market. So I've been doing so for about 5 years now. So I I write songs for artists in China, Taiwan, Malaysia, Hong Kong, and Singapore as well. A brief introduction of how I started is I actually started in secondary school, but just playing like in a rock band with some friends. I never
That's
thought that it
nice.
would be something that I would eventually do like as a career. So I took like a diploma in some business thing that I didn't really care about. And then after army, I decided, okay, I'm going to, I'm going to try this music thing. And yeah, so after army, I decided to go and look for like a Chinese music publisher,
Nice.
which is my publishing company now, Funky Monkeys Publishing, and I've been with them for
Okay.
about 5 years now.
Awesome. It's great. I think we'll go into more of that also later. How about you, Mr. Imran Ajmain?
Okay, hi everybody. I am Imran Ajmain. I'm Singapore born and bred, but for the past 15 years, I've been based in Kuala Lumpur. I am a Malay language singer, songwriter, and composer and producer, yada yada. And my first
Multi-hyphenate.
album was out in 2005. And after that, I had a big break with one of the songs that led me to move to Kuala Lumpur. So probably later we'll be sharing about how Malay consumers, Malay fans consume Malay music, because I am a living example of how the process actually worked out for me.
Great. Awesome. Can't wait to hear more. Okay, so let's just like dive straight into it, I guess. Maybe we can briefly outline what the scenes are like in Singapore, or rather where you all are based, in terms of what the Malay scene is, where the Malay scene is heavily based, and where the Chinese scene is heavily based in terms of consumers and musicians and producers. Imran, would you like to go first?
Sure, okay. So in Singapore, for a very long time, we have been consuming Malay music that is our own, and also those from the region, especially Malaysia and Indonesia. So whenever Malaysian and Indonesian artists come to Singapore, it's always a sold out show, it's always grand support, and it's always a very warm welcome for them, because I think it comes from the fact that we are a minority in Singapore. And so when we relate to musicians coming from abroad, it's a very exciting thing to welcome them. So in Singapore, I have had in music communities. I started out with the hip hop scene in the late 90s and early 2000s. So I was the chorus boy, I was the hook, I was the man. So a lot of the consumers for R&B, hip hop were the little boys and girls from the Malay community. A lot of them on stage as well, and a lot of them who are supporters as well. And then switching to Malay pop, it wasn't a difficult transition for someone like me, because we had similar support. So it was the same faces that support the hip hop scene, and it was the same faces that support the pop scene. But generally, just now behind the scenes, we were sharing about how Malay music was very popular with translated music.
Yeah.
I guess minus social media and the ability to Google, we will definitely not know the source of a lot of the songs that came about. So there were many songs that were very popular, were in fact originally English tunes. So when this happened, up till today, some of the Malay translated songs remain evergreen. So we have pockets of people who love that American British pop that resonates until today, and a lot of young Malay folks tend to sway towards urban music, R&B, hip hop, soul, jazz. But generally, everyone across all ages in the Malay community, there is a pop rock appreciation. Like everybody appreciates a good pop rock song. So it can be like heavy on the guitar solos and the coarse macho voice and the sappy minor chord arrangement. It's always been that way. Yeah, it's always been that way. It's fun. It's evergreen, and it's like across all ages. Everybody recognizes and relates to it until today. So this is the heaviest thing that we consume, be it from locally or Malaysia or Indonesia. The sad rock love songs work very well.
The minor pop rock songs, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So with that, yeah, actually, it's kind of we don't really think about vernacular scenes, but being Singaporean, you're exposed to the many different scenes quite subconsciously. And when you relate or when you describe it to me, I'm like, yeah, actually, I understand where the scene is and what the music is like and where the artists were. Like, yeah. So, how about for yourself, your side, Joshua? Like in the last, or rather in your experience of the Chinese scene, how does that operate? How does music in that scene, artists and producers operate?
I think when people think about Chinese music, most of the time they probably think the first thing is like karaoke music, and that's something that's very very common with a lot of Chinese people. I think whether you're Singaporean or not lah. So
Yeah.
like every time they go to karaoke, like the highest, or rather, they just want to be able to sing all these Chinese songs, and it's kind of similar to, I guess, what Imran said earlier, in the sense that there is kind of like one or two genres that are particularly define
Resonate
what a
with.
Chinese pop artist, resonate with Chinese audiences well, and that's actually ballads, like just like sad ballads, and it has been that way. I think. I mean, it has been that way for, I think, around at least like 20 years. And
Yeah, I've always
but
there's always a very emo writing behind a good Chinese pop
yeah,
ballad, isn't there?
and
Sorry,
it
continue.
still is the case with like all the big charts that, I mean, if we're talking about pop music, all the big
Yeah,
Chinese pop stars, no matter how big they are, they need to have like a few ballads under their belt,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's, I don't, it's just a way that Chinese people like to listen to, or rather people like to listen to Chinese music, um, and that's what resonates with them the most.
I see. Cool, cool. I think also, I mean that along the years, uh, as I can recollect in interacting with my Chinese friends and the songs that they were listening to, like J Cho and all the other usual suspects, they always say how in Chinese music the beauty of a love song is a lot more different than how English love songs are because of the language itself. So so yeah, I guess that will come to my like my next angle where I want to dive into like how does like language and cultural approaches to music like determine what is popular and not so popular. So like for example in Chinese music, I guess it's like a cycle, right? People love the love songs and they love the ballads, and maybe the modern look of Chinese vernacular music also was pushed by the whole Xinyao era, and then how most of the songs that came out that era was ballady songs, the popular ones, and then so how does that sort of like determine how music is produced or like consumed, you know? And I guess also for on the Malay side, like how a lot of Malay consumers like R&B and hip hop. What is the I guess the ins to get your song to a certain level of listenership by default? Okay, maybe let's start with Imran first. Sorry, it's a bit of a long question.
Yeah. I think generally the Malay community's love for urban music, I think, sprouted from in the 90s, where all of these sappy love songs that came out of like Motown and Hollywood, it played a big part, and everybody wanted to try their hand at a cappella and R&B and a little bit of gospel music, even if they don't recognize it as gospel music, right? So,
Yeah.
With the fact that we are thrill seekers, we are happy-go-lucky people, and the popular clubs with the Malay community are the hip hop clubs. I have experienced the whole whole phase in my younger days, and hip hop and R&B like is really soulful. It really works for the Malay crowd. So when you are as a musician with original music and you come up with music that works for this crowd, right? It's easy for them to quickly support you. It's easy for them to quickly like, hey, this is a local version of something that we already are familiar with. And the hip hop scene in Singapore, the Malays in the hip hop scene, they shared this common love with the hip hop scene in Malaysia. So they kept interchanging like the gigs. All the Malaysians came here and the Singaporeans went to Malaysia. And this was a whole period in the late 90s until the early mid 2000s. So with that, when you release a mainstream song, especially let's say there was a popular duo called Sleek, and Sleek was made up of Alif and Sharif. They used the language that ballads cannot use. Like they use words that everyday people understand. Like, you know, if you are familiar in Malay language, we have the official baku and like how it's read in the news or how it's read in formal ceremonies. And then we have the everyday language like, hey, you dah makan? Actually, I nak pergi youth park. You know, so when they use a language, everyday language, and everybody got like, hey, this is possible in our everyday language. So fast forward to maybe 2015, 16, 17, Taufik Batisa, all of his hits already resonated with the audience. Like everybody loves him and his songs already. And then he came up with a song called Awak Kat Mana. Awak Kat Mana is essentially it means where are you? Yeah, where are you? So, but nobody uses awak in a song. So when awak is like when you speak to a stranger, like you talk to the makcik nasi padang, like you know, that's the kind of street language that people wanna like keep their courtesy, like they want to be polite. So awak, kita, we don't use that in music. So when he did that in music, the song didn't only hit a local market, but it was very popular and it was booming for him in Malaysia because everybody here in Kuala Lumpur also speaks the same everyday street language, and that works very well. So back to your question, two things, two very bright spectrums. One is everyday language worked for hip hop, and the poetic use of old words and heartfelt language in the ballads also work for everybody else, because these are words that we cannot find. Like if we were not musicians, we were not writers, and we were not, we can only appreciate it. And when we hear our feelings and our emotions being read out by our idols, by our favorite singers, like, I never thought of love that way. So this, like, the balance is there for Malay music. Yeah.
See, Joshua, how about your take on how Chinese music is influenced and shaped by cultural exchanges and language?
I think kind of if we're talking about like let's say kind of in line with what Imran's talking about for Malay ballads, right? I know we keep talking about ballads, but let's say for Chinese ballads, even though the majority of audiences who listen to Chinese music resonate always with such a genre, over time it has this same idea also as well, where the subject matter, like for example the lyrics itself, it's way more grounded and like spoken on a human level, something like what Imran just talked about. And this, it's not something that is so far off and artsy, and that I sense that is there is more of that kind of ballads nowadays, which the new generation also appreciates more. And in another way also, because the Chinese scene used to be, I think, dominated by Taiwan. So Taiwan had all the big Chinese artists, whereas China was they had their own artists, but they were kind of like in their own. I mean, it's a very big world, but
Yeah,
but they're
it's their
still
own
in
market,
their own
a huge
country, you
market.
know. But now, like over the past 5-10 years, they are obviously, you know, opening up to the world, and even like Singaporeans, we nowadays there's like TikTok, and of course TikTok, if I'm not wrong, originated from China. So a lot of the China songs from TikTok are also becoming the mainstream of what, for example, listeners in to Chinese music in Asia listen to.
Yeah.
To add on that, I guess um, TikTok songs, they are also TikTok Chinese songs. Like they are even more grounded and easily relatable. Like everyday things you say, like your 10-year-old kid says to his friend. That kind of, you know, the kind of things. And
okay.
So I think despite ballads being kind of a mainstay for the past 20 years, I sense that with China, you know, expanding, we might see a change in the, you know, no more ballads. Maybe there is more like for example in China, they have more K-pop influenced boy bands and
I
girl bands
see.
nowadays.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that might be a thing. They're trying to introduce that, but they haven't become worldwide yet, as far as I know. But yeah, I mean that's how it is so far, I think.
Cool. I actually didn't think about that as well. Like the expansion of Chinese music and approaches to production in music through like TikTok, for example. Like, but at the same time, I guess uh, where the vernacular scenes are in terms of uh, how the music's different or what the consumers of each scene prefer, there's always like an underlying current of like what is generally popular music at the time, right? So it's just how, like both of y'all have said, how relatable um, the artists are through their language, through their subject matter, and so on and so forth, I guess. So I guess it's quite universal in that sense. It's just how the nuances of language and culture are different across Malay culture and Chinese culture. And by that extension, Indian music and I mean, just regional music, I guess, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah. So now I guess it comes to a more interesting site where we can find an overlap. In both of your music experience, uh, what are some examples of some cross language collaborations that you have either personally experienced or that were prominent in the scene? And maybe cross language, maybe cross instrumental treatment also, like maybe a Chinese song with some Malay singing or a Malay song with some Chinese instruments, or instances where like different bands moved around in the vernacular scenes, the different vernacular scenes. Imran, would you like to go first? Maybe you can talk about what we talked about just now.
Yeah, so just now behind the scenes we were talking about how a very popular R&B hip hop group in Singapore, they were Urban Exchange, and they made
shout out.
Shout out to my girl V, wherever you at. Okay, so she and her group were signed to a Malaysian label. I mean, the label was based in Malaysia during that time. So because of that, there was a prerequisite, I guess lah. I assume a prerequisite that, you know, since your guys are here, you're signed to a Malaysian office, so let's put out Malay music. And they had Malay versions of their songs. So you have the English versions of their songs, and then you have the Malay versions of their songs. And the Malay versions of their songs featured popular R&B singers like Rough Edge, and Trisno came forward and sang in full Malay, and Vanessa had a full Malay, which at that time it was never heard of before. Like I've never heard Vanessa sing in Malay. So when
In
she
Malay,
sang
I've
it,
never heard
and
her still.
yeah, I know, she's awesome. So when it happened, it took off. It's like it really worked out very well for them, and that did spring a few hits by other singers who translated their music into English, because it worked so
Nice,
well
okay.
for them. But
Yeah.
a small issue is that the national radio here, the equivalent to Mediacorp, which is RTM here in Malaysia, they do not allow songs that have more than one language in them.
Oh, wow.
So yeah,
Didn't
so
know
it's
that.
a dinosaur policy at that time. Today it doesn't
Yeah.
exist anymore. It was a dinosaur
Okay.
policy that suddenly came into play when these songs started to, like, you know, when the
Get
R&B
popular.
songs, when the songs started getting popular, and then the Malay songs had words like, "Oh, let's dance all night, let's you know, let's party to the ground." So when they have such words, they were like, "Oh no, there is a law. You cannot actually use these things." Yeah, so people had to work around it, and this was the same era where local music in Singapore and also in Malaysia, they started to go around mainstream radio and play on independent radio. So you know, when we had the late Chris Ho's
Nice.
show, when we had last time in here they had XFM in KL. So these were the shows that will and supported the songs that have two languages in it. But if I can ask Joshua something, in Chinese
go
music,
ahead.
okay, in Japanese music, when I was growing up, in Japanese music, they love to put English lines that probably, like, it doesn't make sense, you know. When I was younger, I'm listening, and in the middle of it, like, I'll go to the picnic, and then like, why did people just say go to the picnic, you know? And then it evolved, you know. Like, I would hear Korean songs, I would hear Chinese songs that have those English one-liners in the song. Well, is that very popular? Does that still happen now?
It still happens, but I'm sure the grammar is much better nowadays, lah.
Yes,
So the
yes.
sentence structure makes more
I
is much
believe
better.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, still happens.
Yeah. So with that, Malay music was very big to in the past, only maybe last decade. We introduced English words in Malay ballads, no longer in the hip hop, in the
Hip-hop
dance
stuff,
tunes. Yeah, so now it's in the ballads. Like, for example, there's a guy, his name is Anwar Zain. He's a very famous R&B here. He's like the path maker for R&B singers in Malaysia, for Malay music. So he has a song called "I'm the Lucky One," and that's the only English line in the entire song. The entire song is in Malay. Yeah, so because, and that was the first most memorable song that I know that has an English line in it. So now it's so normal. It's like there's a song by Alif Sata that says "You're the one." There is Sezairi breaks into Malay halfway through the song in one of his songs. It's so normal to break into English and to break into like half Malay, half English. Yeah, it's so fun to see the evolution of this.
Nice. Yeah. And how are you, like on your side, Joshua? Do you, I mean, of course, the English one-liner or two-liner is quite prominent, but any other instances where maybe not even just through producing music, but like in your experiences in like international songwriting camps, for example, how do different languages and different people of all races come together and sort of collab? Have there been like instances?
Yeah. So I've been to a few like songwriting camps in the Asian region. I've also been to Sweden once for like a 1 month long camp. It's
Nice.
this school called Music Makana. So basically,
Wow.
like they have created a lot of like pop artists. I can't remember their names now, but like people like Max Martin, all this, they have like visited the school and given talks and all that. So
Nice.
Basically, like we went for some songwriting camps there as well. And what I would say, I mean, I guess for anyone listening, any aspiring songwriter producer, I guess this is where I can give some knowledge that maybe some of you might find beneficial, which is like, I guess I've collaborated with like, for example, Taiwanese songwriters, and Taiwanese songwriters, when they in the sessions, you know, they are very humble people. They're very respectful people, and also like when they write the songs, they're very. It's a generalization, but they're very detailed, and they're very
Okay.
detailed in the melody, in the lyrics, in the production, and basically, I've never had an experience where it wasn't a good one with a Taiwanese writer for some reason. I think it's in their culture, I think, to be very friendly
Yeah.
and also have good EQ. So I think that's Taiwanese. I guess I can speak about a few more. So
Yep.
whereas if I go to China, and Chinese people, you know, Chinese people in China, they have like their culture is. If you've ever been to China, like when they talk on the street, they are just very. It's like they're shouting at you sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay, depends where you go lah. Yeah, but they're very straightforward, very
crass.
direct. Yeah, very crass, but they're also very very emotionally, how to call it, very emotional people. So it
Okay.
translates in their songwriting sessions as well. They'll be like the lyrics must mean a lot. The lyrics must be something very heavy and very emotional, and
Yeah.
that's because they like, that's their culture, and they like to listen to songs like that. And whereas in terms of melody in their songs, they tend to be very simple and direct. Whereas if you for those who listen to Chinese music, if you compare songs from China and songs from Taiwan, Taiwanese tend to have like a more high class, you know,
arrangement
it's
approach.
not so direct, and it's not so it's more layered. Yeah. Whereas you know, China songs tend to be a bit more straightforward. I guess I can speak about one more.
Yeah.
Which is like Swedish people. I think Swedish people. I'm sure some people may know, like a lot of hits come from like Swedish songwriters.
Sweden. Yeah.
Yeah, Sweden is like whatever thing they sing out, whatever songs they write is like, it's just an amazing pop song that comes out of them. And
yeah.
I had the opportunity to work with some like writers who have written for like K-pop like artists, and
nice.
Despite them being, everybody is talented for sure, but they are also actually very much, their personality is very much like an Asian, in the sense that they're also very warm and respectful. Yeah. So I'm not sure about the English scene, but that is something I find that seems to it might be an EQ thing, but it's just it just makes for a very good songwriting sessions, I feel, whether or not the songs come out well. You know, you leave the sessions feeling like you had a good experience with this person from whichever part of the world. So yeah.
And were there any like collaborations that resulted, like, or are you still working with some of the people you've met along the way?
Yes, as in we definitely still do write, like for now it's through Zoom, and yeah, so when for now it's like, even though it's COVID, a lot of the productions for the Chinese side also it's very much online, even vocal producing artists from I'm sure it's the same everywhere else, but it's now like Zoom sessions. Yeah.
Yeah, man, things have changed quite drastically, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Okay, so well, I guess now we can move on to a little bit more of like, because now the whole sense I'm getting is that vernacular music is just probably a classification of what universal music is, or how music is kind of the same across different regions and different countries. It's just what mainly changes is the language or the approach or the cultural nuances that the more popular vernacular music pays attention to. So maybe now we can move on to how these approaches are defined because of how the different consumption patterns are, like in the different scenes. So, like Imran was talking earlier on about how a lot of Malay music was brought to Malay ears or regional ears through covers of popular, let's say, popular American songs or popular European songs. And then without the age of the internet previously, lots of people actually thought that these songs were originally the vernacular artist's original composition, right?
That's right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so I guess my question is, how was vernacular? How was that vernacular approach to music used by labels then, versus how now is the music in your scene sort of promoted and pushed out to consumers in light
Yeah.
of the fact that this was how consumption patterns were and now how they have changed?
Well, I think although the ways that labels and artists push their music today have changed very drastically, but the common person who consumes music, they generally do not know the behind the scenes processes behind the putting out a
Yeah.
song. So it's like, for example, when there was a singer, his name is Didi Sazli. He came out with a ballad, and the ballad was originally JJ Lin's song, and then
Oh, nice.
he was attacked for it. It's like he was attacked brutally for it
Which song?
because I cannot remember which song, but I'll send it to you. It's a very, very nice song, and it did very well in Malay as well. So the fans
Nice.
were like, "Oh, he put it out. He copied a song and put it out." And it was actually released as a collaborative effort, actually, to expand JJ Lin's songbook, so that Malay audiences can listen to his composition, and the labels were all behind it. But the common consumer don't really understand. This is worse with samples, actually. This is worse with like hip hop samples, or when we sample music from somebody else. It's like they don't see it as creative. The general audience, they don't see it as creative. Whereas in the urban music, it's like, oh man, how did you take this bass line from this song? How did you spin it around? And how did you put this audio track and this scratch? How we appreciate it. So with that, sometimes the promotions of music have to elaborate this bit that it's a cover, it's a sample, it's a translation. So PR kits always. But just now, going back to what Joshua said for TikTok music, like, although we are generally big fans of the big ballads, the high notes, the belting voices and all, for Malay consumers, that's not the same when it comes to music. The music in TikTok for Malay audiences, the ones that go viral are always the ones that are fun, comedic, slapstick. And recently, I feel that a very good example of this was Faris Jabbar. So he had a song, and he mixed Malay and English in the lyrics, and everyone is doing this challenge where they mime his lyrics. It's so brilliantly done. It's so simple. Like, they just take his rhymes, and then everybody's like miming, and they pass the phone from one person to another, and everyone is doing it. So I feel like it's a big break for Faris, because Faris has put out a lot of good songs, but this is the one that broke TikTok, and everybody, Malaysia and Singapore, everybody's on it. So even when you watch this, like when you watch it, you can't even tell where they're from. So they are consuming Malay music. It's no longer like, oh, this guy's from Singapore or this guy's from Malaysia. Nobody's doing that anymore for Malay music, because you can't tell. You just, you know, like, you just accept it as it is. But previously, when I first started, when I was in KL, when I first started, every time I was introduced, they had to drop the Singapore, like, Imran from Singapore. Oh, everybody, please welcome Imran from Singapore. Everyone from Singapore, Singapore. So that was not as welcoming as how, because people has this sense that, oh, you're a foreigner, so why did they put you as a headline act? So why did you know, you don't qualify for certain awards? Those are the kind of negative stuff that I received. But if fast forward 15, 20 years today, absolutely no problem. Someone who has broke all the ceiling, every single ceiling, is Alif. Alif from Slick, just now I mentioned. So Alif, he is a Singaporean artist who has made it in KL, in Malaysia music charts. He is not only releasing songs that is his own, but he is producing for so many people, and they are all charting at the same time. And he is based in Singapore. He's not even here in KL. So that's the exciting part about Malay music. He doesn't even leave home. So right now he's with Def Jam Asia. So he's based in Singapore. So all of his promo and all of the stuff that he has to do for the promotions of his songs, which he just has a new song out, was all done in Singapore. So I guess COVID did that to us, but at the same time, polished and revealed some gems as well.
Great. Yeah. So I guess a similar question goes to you, Joshua, in terms of where Chinese music is at today versus how it was. I mean, how we started talking about a lot of how artists create Chinese hit songs or pop songs are always based from the love song angle and the ballady angle. But I mean, of late, I've been hearing a lot of exciting young, either Taiwanese or even Singaporean Chinese artists going into like neo soul and R&B or like alternative R&B kind of music. Like, so what has changed in your experience?
My experience hasn't been a very long one, but I would say yes, I do think we are starting to see, like, over the past 5 to 10 years, some more, like, you're right, the neo soul and R&B, and even some hip hop acts, artists slowly having some space in the charts in China and Taiwan. And other than that, it pains me to say this, but I still think the dominance of the Chinese charts, it's still most of the time just ballads. So I would say there's not much change at this moment. The only change really is like there is a new artist now, and that the arrangement style
carrying the mental.
Yeah, kind of, it's a very negative thing to say, but I think it's like it's still how it is. However, the arrangement style, like the artist image, definitely goes with the times. At least that changes. The arrangement style is definitely way more modern. You have you're not just bound down to like a piano and drums and strings, and then that's it. Now there is a lot more. I mean, definitely as in this era, the producers are able to add in more high technology sounding samples and instruments,
Okay.
which
Yep,
makes
yeah.
stuff way more modern. It used
Yeah.
to be only the hip hop and R&B or the EDM people who are
Yeah.
doing new things, but I see that um, it's kind of like you educate the public. So I think I see that there is more artists now in the Chinese market who are willing.
Yeah.
One such
Yeah.
example would be Gem Tang. She's called Deng Ziqi. Yeah.
Okay.
So she
Okay.
has ballads, yes, but the ballads are also very modern sounding. They have a lot of
Okay.
electronic elements to them. So I would say that's where it currently is at the moment. So there is still some good changes. I do definitely hope
Mhm.
that the you can have more like like hip hop and R&B and maybe even like more poppier
Joshua, I have a
sounding
question for you.
Approaches.
artists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so okay. So like Korean music is like really huge internationally. And to the point where now they have recruited, I mean, it's been a while, they have recruited Koreans to join girl groups and boy bands, and they have assimilated, but yet they remain like for example, Lisa from
Lisa from
Blackpink, she's
Blackpink.
Thai, and then there are very prominent figures in boy bands that are Chinese or they are Thai as well or Filipino, and they are doing very well in K-pop groups. So us as Singaporeans, right, we know each other like even better than this. Like Thailand and Korea is like far away, Like, but
Yeah.
Singaporean Chinese, Singaporean Malay, like, do you think it's possible if we were to cross collaborate? Like, for example, let's say in the case of JJ Lin and Didi Sazli, do you think that it could be a norm? A Chinese artist were to release a Malay version of their music, do you think that that could happen? Would they be open to doing it?
I think it
It's like,
Yeah.
well,
no, it should,
the
it
Chinese,
should happen, I think.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think it should, yeah. I think that's going to
It should,
change a
it's
lot of things.
definitely, yeah.
And also
Whether
vice
I think
versa. Like Malay music, Malay singers should record and release in Mandarin. I feel that way lah.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
actually,
like I give you an
recently,
example.
yeah.
Like for example, Janet Jackson, Beyonce, Lady Gaga, these artists, right? They put out English music, and then they will put out a Spanish or French version of their songs because of the demographics that's like up to their Spotify or their streams, and then suddenly there is a French version of the song. Suddenly there is a Spanish version, especially Spanish, because Hispanics
Yes.
play a big role in American pop culture. So how come we are supposedly so integrated and we live next door to each other? How come we haven't done it yet? And do you think that we should be doing it? And not Spanish lah, Mandarin lah.
Good question.
So Mandarin and Malay. Yeah.
I think definitely lah, because like I think obviously the Malay community is very big, and the Chinese community also very big. So there's definitely
Yeah.
it's a good thing to do, and I think in the recent years, I think in some of the Voice of China or some of those Chinese competitions,
I Am Singer.
singing competitions, yeah. They have
I Am Singer. Yes.
there are there are a Malay. I think there are Malay singers as well. I think a few of them.
Yeah, there was one that
who
did
did
very
them in
well. Her name
Chinese.
is Sheila Amza. So
Yeah.
she's not only a Malay girl who took part in a Mandarin singing contest in China, but she's a hijabi, you
Wow.
know. She has the
Oh,
full
wow.
hijabi on. Yeah, so when she took part and she went very far in the competition, and it was so mind-blowing how China paid so much attention to this girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, and definitely when a Malay singer sing Chinese song, the flavor is very different one, and it's very
Yeah.
tasteful. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I actually have not seen a Chinese artist sing a Malay song as of now, but that could be interesting. Yeah.
Well, here in Malaysia, it's quite common, and I do envy that for our scene in Singapore. I do feel
Yeah.
that because Malay community are strong supporters, they are fun-loving people. They are quick to
Yeah.
accept something fun in front of their eyes, something viral, something that, you know, like, let's watch this show, let's support this busker, let's go to the outdoor esplanade. If you go to the outdoor esplanade shows, those are Malay families that picnic there to get a spot so that they can watch
Yeah.
somebody who they do not know on stage. So I feel that we are missing a point in the past 40 years that we should be translating our work to each other's languages.
Yeah, totally, man.
Agree.
Like I guess we've become a bit more siloed lah, as where race is concerned in Singapore. But also in music, like there's not a lot of influence from the West. So even if it, I guess the approach to even Malay or to Chinese music is very like um, secondary to the fact that the influences come even from somewhere else. Then that also creates more and more silos. I've hardly seen much interlanguage uh, collaboration in the last maybe even the last 5 years. But it's very easy to just say, hey, let's do something, you know? So, like recently, so I actually programmed this thing called the Great Singapore Replay. And then in the Great Singapore Replay, there were actually Chinese artists and there was an Indian artist and Malay artist as well. And even though everyone was sort of encouraged to write all their final music for this campaign that they were on, the whole point was for them to produce a piece of music based on Singapore's musical or Southeast Asia's musical history. Even though the end point was going to be an English song, but along the way, a lot of different cross language inputs were given to each of the songs, which didn't come out, of that whole process. So recently this year or last was it last year? We just decided to just do a song together all again, in the midst of the COVID like claustrophobia. And we were like, let's just do it in the languages that we want to do it in. I mean, of course, we went down certain ground routes and everything, and kind of what's the word? We set out the song that it would be a multi-language song, but the way that we marketed was the same, and like it didn't matter which market we were pushing it to. There was no different strategy for approaching the Chinese market or a different strategy approaching the Malay market or anything, but it's just how we would usually release a song as independent artists. And so in that one song we had like Tagalog, we had Malay, we had Chinese, and we had English. Yeah, so the process itself was really easy. I mean, I think that's where the limits are, maybe not in the collaboration or not in the actual output of a song that is cross language. Yeah, but it's about, I guess, audiences also, how they would receive it and how they accept it. I think Singaporean audiences are quite rigid in that sense.
Okay,
Yeah.
time to shake things up.
So
I'm all for it, man.
Yeah, man. Let's do something. In a nutshell, after this 1 hour song, We all have each other's numbers. Let's do something.
Yeah, let's do something. Our producer is like knocking on our WhatsApp.
Oh, is he telling us to keep quiet already?
No. It says that it's time for our final thoughts. So maybe
Okay.
I can
Sure.
finish up my part.
Yes.
Thank you so much
Please do.
to Scape and also to David for having me on board. When he invited me, I had very big aspirations that I was going to be in Singapore for the live show, but COVID has other plans. As it has gotten its way for the past 2 years. But
Yeah.
as musicians and as artists, as active artists, we don't give up hope.
Yep.
I would love to be back in Singapore soon, and I would love to have a meetup with Joshua and also yourself. I'm a big fan of your music. Good luck with the new release. And that's all from me. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Thank
Imran. Any
you.
last final thoughts, Josh? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Thanks to David and Scape for inviting me. I consider myself still kind of a rookie in this industry compared to all of you guys. But yeah, so
No
I'm
such thing.
very glad that I'm invited to this panel. And I hope to be able to continue doing what I do and also give knowledge to any aspiring people who may be listening to this as well. So yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Great. Lastly, can I get your social media handles and like where can people follow you guys if they want to engage with your music or just ask you how you're doing on a Tuesday?
Yes. So I go by my full name, Imran Ajmain. IMRANAJMAIN. Or you can go to imranajmain.com. Everything is listed there. And I'm on TikTok.
Hey.
Nice.
How about you, Josh?
I'm not an artist. I don't have TikTok. I probably should have one. But
You should have one.
Yeah. I'll try and cover maybe your songs in Mandarin also. I can try.
Let's do it.
My IG handle is at joshua.g. So that's at JAWSURE.g. Yeah.
Joshua.
Nice. Joshua.
Nice. Very nice.
Thanks so much, guys, for like spending time with me this evening. And it was, as usual, lots of food for thought, and hopefully things will happen from this point, be it between us or be it between the scenes. We can only pray that things get more intertwined, especially in a time as hard as this. Yeah. So I hope you guys stay safe. Keep doing what you're doing. If you need any help, you can call each other. So don't be a stranger.
A song in Malay, Tim.
Nice.
Ken, let's go.
Let's do it.
My Malay is not so bad. It's quite good. I think the baku one.
Can.
So yeah. Anyway, yeah. Let's do it. So for everyone else, thanks for tuning in. Music Day Out is happening on the 18th and 22nd to the 23rd of October at various venues at Scape. But I guess also if you want to be safe, I think there's an online way to consume all the music and all the panels that are happening. So you can just visit the Scape website, or you can follow them on social media or on Facebook and register your interest as soon as you can. So with that, good night, stay safe, and take care.